Have you ever faced a storm in your life? A situation so overwhelming it felt like you were about to sink? The disciples of Jesus knew that feeling all too well in one of the most astonishing events ever recorded. Let's travel back in time and witness this miracle together. Imagine this. The day had been long. Jesus had just miraculously fed a crowd of 5,000 people with only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. He was a superstar, and the people wanted to make him their king right then and there. But Jesus, knowing this wasn't his purpose, sent his disciples ahead in a boat to cross the Sea of Galilee while he went up a mountain to pray alone. As evening fell, the disciples were in the middle of the sea, and a fierce storm began to brew. This wasn't just a little rain. The winds howled, and massive waves crashed against their small fishing boat. These were experienced fishermen, mind you, men who knew the sea like the back of their hands. But this storm was different. It was terrifying, and they were rowing with all their might. Making no progress against the violent gale, they were exhausted, frightened, and completely at the mercy of the tempest. Hours passed. It was now the dead of night, what the Bible calls the fourth watch. Sometime between 3 and 6 a.m., the disciples were still struggling, their hope likely fading with every wave that swamped their boat. Suddenly, through the darkness and the spray, they saw something unbelievable. A figure, walking toward them, on top of the raging water. Their first thought wasn't relief. It was pure terror. They thought it was a ghost. In their exhausted and panicked state, a supernatural apparition seemed more likely than what was actually happening. They cried out in fear. Their screams were probably swallowed by the wind, but the figure heard them. Immediately, a familiar voice cut through the chaos of the storm. "Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." It was Jesus. The moment they heard his voice, a wave of shock and relief must have washed over them. Their teacher, their master, was here, in the middle of the sea, defying the very laws of nature. Now, this is where the story takes another incredible turn. Peter, always impulsive and full of faith, called out, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." Think about that request. In the middle of a life-threatening storm, Peter's first instinct was to get even closer to Jesus, to share in the miracle. Jesus simply said, "Come." And Peter did it. He climbed out of the boat and took his first steps on the water, walking toward Jesus. For a moment, Peter was doing the impossible. He was walking on water, just like his Lord. His eyes were locked on Jesus, the source of his strength and the focus of his faith. But then, he made a mistake. He took his eyes off Jesus and looked around at the storm. He saw the huge waves, he felt the powerful wind, and fear gripped him once more. The moment his faith wavered, the moment he focused on the storm instead of the Savior, he began to sink. He focused on the storm instead of the Savior, he began to sink. "Lord, save me," he cried out, his hand reaching up from the churning water. Immediately, Jesus reached down, caught him by the hand, and pulled him up. "You of little faith," Jesus said gently, "why did you doubt?" As they both climbed back into the boat, something else amazing happened. The wind died down completely. The sea became calm. The storm, which had raged for hours, was over in an instant. The disciples who remained in the boat were utterly astounded. They fell to their knees and worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." This story is so much more than just a miracle. It's a powerful lesson for all of us. The storms of life are real. and they can be terrifying. We can feel like we're sinking, overwhelmed by our circumstances. But just like he was for the disciples, Jesus is there in our storms, too. He calls to us, telling us not to be afraid. He invites us to step out in faith, to keep our eyes fixed on him, not on the wind and the waves, and even when we falter, when our faith gets shaky and we start to sink, he is right there, reaching out his hand to save us. What storms are you facing today? Remember this story. Keep your eyes on him, trust in his power, and know that he can calm any storm, both on the sea and in your heart. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched you, please give this video a like and consider subscribing for more content that explores these incredible accounts. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.